And I'm ready to provide some value with every touch.
Cool. Happy for you. I'm ready whenever you are, so feel free to. Actually, I'm not ready because Jake is still fucking here. All right, there we go. All right, Alex, 5 minutes are up on the clock, and today I want to talk about a pet peeve of mine. The pet peeve being if I'm in an SDR's drip campaign or nurture cadence or something along those lines, I tell them to reach out to me in 6 months. And then 6 months down the line, after that first interaction, they reach out with an email like, any changes, any updates, thoughts, and that's it. It just bothers me to think that you can just restart a conversation with zero context 6 months later. I'd love to hear if it bothers you as much as it bothers me, and maybe some ideas around how you can combat that and deliver more compelling messaging as an SDR.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it bothers me quite as much, if I'm being honest. Based on your action here, I'll just ignore it. You seem to get really angry. I mean, we can dive into
livid.
that.
No, I'm kidding.
We can dive into your that later. No, it's definitely important to have some value in every piece of outreach you make, right? Every time you reach out to a prospect, you don't want to just be throwing words at them for no reason. I think putting purpose behind those words is why people respond in the first place. So whether it's 6 months down the line, whether it's the second touch in an email, there always has to be something. You can't just be like, hey, did you see that? Actually, those ones bother me more. The pipeline ones, the long-term ones, I'm like, okay, it's been 6 months. I did tell them to stop talking to me. The ones that bother me more are like the second or third email that's just, hey, making sure you saw my email. What do you think?
I feel that too.
I feel that in my core. If I thought something worth responding, I would have responded, That's my stance there. So it's playing the like, oh, make sure my email reached your inbox. Like your email either reached my inbox and I saw it and your next one will reach my inbox, or it didn't and I won't see the second one either, like the spam filter or the firewall just caught it. But if your second email gets to me, your first email got to me, That's
a good point. And I think to that point of just sending like the second or third touch being like thoughts or like double checking on this, there's a really popular sequence out there that a lot of SDRs use called the Agogi sequence that was developed by Outreach. And the idea behind it is that the first email is so like personalized and laden with information and piques the interest of the prospect that it doesn't almost make sense to then send another email like that, because the first one does the trick. You should have everything you need in that first email to make the decision as to whether or not you want to have a conversation or you don't. And the purpose of the second email of sort of bubbling it up back to the top of the inbox is strictly for the purposes of that. I know I've sent you a message that should be compelling based on the research I've done, based on who you are as a person. And maybe you just didn't see it. Maybe it got buried in your inbox. So I'm doing my due diligence as an SDR to ensure that you see this because I think I can provide value. What bothers me is when that thoughts email or that little follow-up message is attached to a first email that is not compelling and that just doesn't do the trick and shouldn't be valued as highly as it is. And I know it's a little bit petty to be like, your email wasn't good enough. But truthfully, there are emails that you get where it's just like, like I'm not compelled enough to reach out to this person. Let me delete it. And then they go ahead and follow up with the thoughts email. And you're like, no, It wasn't compelling enough. I'm sorry. Delete.
Yeah. So that's a fair point. But I would also say if the first email is that compelling, wouldn't I respond to it? Like if it wasn't compelling enough, I didn't respond. I think people can be like, oh, maybe they didn't see it, but I think making that assumption is more of an excuse than anything.
That's a good point.
Like if they didn't respond on my email for one reason or another, it wasn't good enough to warrant a response. So I need to figure out something that will. So that's where you need to come in with a different kind of value. Maybe you didn't talk about ROI and you talked about more like the how. Then you're like, okay, those differentiators didn't resonate. Let me find the right value prop for this persona. Let me reevaluate the kinds of messaging I'm using in order to find a message that is compelling for that prospect. So I understand the concept. You don't want to bog them down with too much in, two big emails in a row. So just thoughts is an interesting concept, but it never really worked for me. I'm sure that's why I have this opinion as well. So it never really resonates with me as a prospect either.
Yeah. And I think to kind of wrap all of this up, to your point of like making sure that the next email does add value in some capacity. A lot of what I think SDRs do in that first email when they do fill it with information is a bit like spaghetti at the wall. They throw 3 different value propositions in there that they think would resonate with you, which is a lot to take in as a reader. You know, there's a lot to follow there. If instead you take that first email and you just break it up into 3 emails so that there are 3 separate value added emails in a sequence versus just one with a bunch of follow-ups attached with it, I think you're going to see a lot more success, because each touch brings something new to the table that piques potentially my interest as a reader and gives me the opportunity to think like, I should reach out to this person.
Yeah, absolutely. Nailed it on the head. All right, AJ, 15 seconds. Tell everyone about opt-in.
Opt-in, quick, 5-minute videos, no fluff, actionable tips. You can find us on our YouTube, on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram, and on the website, demanddrive.com.
Sorry. I can't do them at the same time. I only have 2 hands.
We'll fix it in post.
I'm just a man, Alex.